Their fans paint river cruising as an idyllic, perfectly paced, immersive way to travel. But few talk about what you lose by choosing one. Having done 12 European river cruises and over 100 ocean ones, I found the differences are bigger than most people think or expect. Some things river cruises absolutely do way better than ocean ships, but some things they don't. Welcome aboard, I'm Gary Bembridge, and here's what river cruises and ocean cruises each do better than the other, and why. The first thing that river cruises do better is they offer a smaller and more intimate cruising experience. Ocean ships often carry thousands of people, while some do carry as few as 600 passengers. They're getting bigger and bigger with up to 7,000 passengers on some. European river cruise ships range from 100 to 200 passengers. My most recent Rhine cruise on Avalon Envision, for example, held just 166 passengers. This scale means a very different experience on board. It's more intimate and easier to connect with other passengers. This has really big implications. For example, river cruises have extremely smooth and hassle-free embarkation. There's no big terminals, lines, and security to get through. Literally, you just walk on board, check in with no waiting, and you're completely and utterly done. It's also very flexible. On that recent cruise, I could arrive at any time during the day, as long as I'd checked in time for the safety briefing, captain welcome, and the cruise overview by the cruise director. This is so different to ocean cruising, where embarkation can be busy, chaotic, and can be rather slow. Disembarkation is also really relaxed. On that recent cruise, I could stay in my cabin up until at least 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I could stay on the ship until late afternoon when the next cruise briefing took place. During the cruise, it was more intimate, laid back, and very social. Few passengers mean no crowded venues or lines for anything, and you quickly get to know pretty much everybody through the excursions dining, where you're sharing tables, up the top deck during scenic sailings, at the nightly happy hour and next day briefings. You really do get to know everybody. Also, the smaller passenger numbers means the staff get to know you. They remember your name, they know your likes and your preferences. Even the cruise director is readily available, easy to access. They can answer questions, give tips, and help sort out any issues. I find there's more of a sense of community too that builds on a river cruise. Another thing that river cruising does better is it has more inclusions and less push to spend more on board. I'll reveal later what river cruises actually cost, but river cruises generally include many things within the fares that most ocean cruises don't. Using that recent Avalon Rhine cruise as an example, because it's very typical, as well as the cabin and of course all the meals, it included wine and beer and soft drinks with lunch and dinner, drinks at the nightly happy hour, 24-hour specialty teas and coffees, choice of up to 2 to 3 excursions in all ports, Starlink Wi-Fi for as many devices as I wanted, and the use of e-bikes and regular bikes in the ports. The only extras were gratuities, transfers to and from the airport, some added charge specialty excursions like say vineyard and wine tasting ones, the minibar and drinks at all times that weren't included in those times I mentioned were extra charge, and of course any purchases you made at the pop-up merchandise shop. I came away from this cruise with an onboard bill of $0. It's important to note that inclusions and exclusions differ slightly by cruise line, but it's a much more inclusive experience on rivers than most categories of ocean cruises. Also, there's no upsell, no photographers, art auctions, casinos, bingo, spa, or other events which are designed to get us to part with our money on board. There wasn't even a future cruise sales desk. The third area that fans of river cruising stress is that unlike most ocean cruises, the ships dock in the heart of cities and towns, and the overall focus is more on where you're going to than what is available to do and happens on board. In most stops on a river cruise in Europe, unlike with ocean ships, river ships do not dock on the outskirts in a working industrial container port far from the center, meaning long walks or shuttle buses required. Usually you can step right off the river ship in or close to the center of town or the city that you're calling on. For example, on that Rhine Avalon cruise, we were in the heart of Amsterdam, Cologne, Rudolph and Mainz. On Danube cruises, I've docked right in Vienna, Budapest and Passau. On other river trips, I've docked even in the heart of Venice and right in the heart of Paris by the Eiffel Tower. So in the day and when staying late into the evening or overnight, I could literally walk out and enjoy the towns and sights like we had and I was able to do in Amsterdam, Cologne and Rudolph. But another plus is, as well as docking in the heart of the action, is river cruises have constant scenery and a real feeling of being connected to the region. On a river cruise, the banks are always close by, so I always feel that I'm connected and experiencing the area, even when I'm passing through more industrial areas, past campsites, people fishing or swimming, when barge ships are passing by carrying raw materials and containers. I feel connected to what the region is all about. Of course, when river cruising, the scenery will often be way more picturesque: vineyards, castles, villages and towns. Like when you're sailing on the Rhine through the Rhine Gorge, you've got around 40 castles, and on the Danube when you're passing through the Wachau Valley with castles, Mel Cathedral and quaint towns. On an ocean cruise, when sailing and on sea days, there's only kind of the endless ocean and nothing kind of going on or sights to see. River cruising also has a different focus to ocean cruises, as they do a deeper dive into a region and of course head way further inland than ocean cruises do and can. For example, on this Rhine River cruise, we traveled 500 miles from Amsterdam near the coast all the way inland to Basel, Switzerland. The itinerary is also more in-depth and intense, as the distance covered is much less than on an ocean cruise, with more frequent stops. On that Rhine cruise, we traveled an average of only 70 miles a day, rambling slowly through the area, stopping at various places along the way to visit and explore. This is then supplemented by much more cultural immersion than you get on an ocean cruise. The excursions tend to be walking tours. We explore the cities, the history, the culture. Onboard entertainment is often local performers showcasing regional dance and music, local experts coming on to talk about the history or traditions. Also, every day at the daily briefing, the cruise director will normally talk about the river, the places, and so on. I find river cruises a more immersive experience, and I always feel more connected to the region than I do when I'm going on an ocean cruise. Linked to that is another plus of river cruising, which is most have regional and local destination focused dining and drink. The menus generally include and reflect the local cuisine and dishes where you're cruising through. So on a Danube cruise, for example, you're passing through multiple countries: Germany, Austria, Hungary, and the cuisine will often change to showcase the dishes, desserts, the pastries, the cheeses, the wines, and the beers specific to each of those. Another massive plus of river cruising for anyone susceptible or concerned about motion seasickness, it is pretty much impossible to get it on a river cruise. The rivers flow steadily and calm, and the ship just glides gently through the water. So that all sounds fantastic, but what do river cruises not do better than ocean cruising, and where does ocean cruising have the upper hand? The biggest by far is the sheer amount of choice, variety, and ability to be flexible. Ocean cruising offers a multitude of diverse destinations and permutations all around the world, from sunny tropical islands right through to seeing exotic wildlife in the remote polar regions, often covering vast distances and packing many countries into one cruise. River cruises are more limited, with most in Europe on a handful of rivers, others in the Mekong, in rivers in China, in India, the Nile, and some parts of South America and the USA. It is much more limited. But also ocean ships, even the relatively small ocean ships, offer a lot of choice. They all have several bar and lounge venues. They have entertainment options like a theatre with production shows and guest entertainers, live music venues, casino, kids clubs, a medical centre, shops, and some even have a library. There'll be a spa, a fitness centre, swimming pools. Large megaships even have ice skating rinks, rock climbing walls, water parks, and flow riders. And they also offer multiple dining options, which usually includes a main dining room, buffet restaurant, casual dining spots offering burgers and pizzas, several specialty restaurants, and also room service options. River cruise ships are way more limited. My recent ship just had a main lounge with bar, a second lounge at the rear of the ship, one dining room, a small fitness center, and a deck on top of the ship with a small hot tub. Another area where ocean ships have more choice are cabins. On ocean ships, you have choices for a wide range of budgets, including inside cabins, ocean view, balcony, suites, and many have accessible cabins, solo, and family cabins too. However, river ships have limited choice. At most, 3 types of cabins. Cabins 3/4 below the waterline, cabins with picture windows like I had or a balcony, and some have 1 or 2 suites. Many have no accessible cabins and hardly any solo cabins. Cabin sizes also tend to be smaller. In terms of the daily program, there's much more on offer on an ocean cruise. For example, on Sky Princess, I did before this recent river cruise, there are almost 70 activities on the daily program. It's way more flexible with many options available throughout the day and late into the night. This is not the case on river cruises, which have limited onboard activities and almost no evening entertainment, perhaps a pianist, some local musicians and singers, perhaps some games. This all means that ocean cruises offer a more flexible approach and definitely cater for many different traveler types compared to river cruises. River cruising tends to attract and cater more for older couples, although they are trying to attract younger and multi-generational travelers with more active excursions and flexible dining. However, ocean cruises beat it in so many ways, not only age-related. First of all, travelers with mobility issues, river cruising can be a challenge due to lack of accessible cabins and elevators, steep gangways, mostly walking tours in cobblestone towns. Whereas ocean cruise ships have specific cabins, they have access features and often tours for people with mobility issues. For solo travelers, many ocean cruise ships these days have cabins for them and they have arranged meetups. Few river ships have solo cabins. Also, if traveling as a family, ocean beats river with family cabins or the ability to have 3 or 4 in a cabin. They have kids and teens clubs and programs. Many have features like water parks, games arcades, and so on. Some river cruise lines are introducing family programs in peak school vacation time, but it comes nowhere close. Another advantage ocean cruises have over river cruises is it doesn't have any of the quirks and niggles that is a feature of river cruising. Unlike river cruises, ocean ships do not dock a few feet away from each other, sometimes 3 side by side. On river cruises, when docked, often when you open your curtains, you'll be staring into another cabin about an arm's length away, making your cabin very dark and definitely less private. When this happens, you will also have to perhaps climb up and over the ship next door and down to get onto the shore, or in some cases you have to walk through another ship to get to and from the shore and your ship. Also, with very few exceptions like the Panama Canal cruise, almost no ocean cruises go through locks, while river ones pass through many, 12 on my recent Rhine River cruise. You also don't have sea days on a river cruise, but you do have those on many ocean cruises, and for many people they love sea days as a time to enjoy the ship, to relax and unwind. Also, ocean cruising doesn't have to the same degree weather itinerary disruptions. Of course, ocean cruises can be subject to weather like, say, wind or swell means missing a port, but it is pretty unusual. But stretches of river cruising seasons can be impacted for long periods by water levels being too high or too low for ships to sail along parts of the river. And I've actually been on several river cruises affected by this. In the past, some cruises, for example, have seen my embarkation and disembarkation port change. The ship had to stay in one spot and we were bussed to and from the various planned excursions further down the river. And some friends of mine have even changed ships partway through to join a ship further down the river to get past kind of the no-sail areas. One of the biggest things that ocean cruises have over river cruises, though, is the cost. River cruises are significantly more expensive per day than most ocean cruises, even when you consider they have more inclusions. For most people, the cost of a river cruise per day is significantly more than any ocean cruise they would consider or go on, unless you're the traveler that goes on luxury or ultra-luxury lines like Oceania, Viking, Explore Journeys, Silversea, Regent and Seabourn and so on. You're definitely going to be spending way more than you would on your ocean cruise. Let me give you an example. Avalon is kind of a 4-star mid-tier cruise line. So you have 5-star luxury river lines above it like Uniworld, Scenic and Riverside, and you have the more value 3-star lines like Cross Europe and TUI below that. And even the entry-level cabins on Avalon that are 3/4 below the waterline cost around $1,000 for a cabin for 2 people per night. It costs $1,800 for those with big picture windows per night. If river cruising does appeal to you and you want to do it, join me over in this video where I reveal things people keep getting wrong when they plan, book and go on a river cruise. See you over there.